Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner and Conquer the Gauntlet Pro, Evan Preparis. I got a co-host and a guest joining me today. My co-host is AC Hale. AC, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Evan.
All right, before we get to our guest, though, we'll do a quick word from our sponsors. So this episode is brought to you by Egg Weights. You may be seeing some of the Conquer the Gauntlet Pro team posting about them. So they're small weights you carry in your hand when you go running, and the idea is it works your arms and hands at the same time as you're working on running. They can also be used for things like if you're doing martial arts or fighting training like boxing, essentially adds weight to the distal end of your arms, which is more costly than adding weight to anywhere else in the body. So basically like small weights you kind of carry in your hands. So mine just showed up today. I haven't even had a chance to use them, but super excited about that. And then if anyone wants to order a pair, you can head over to ctgproteam.com. The link will be up there for, I think it's a 10% discount code. All right, let's get to today's guest. So joining us today, we have Logan Broadbent. Logan, say hi.
Hey, Evan, how you doing? First-time caller, long-time listener here.
Awesome. I'm going to run through a quick, well, it's not so quick, of Logan's bio. He said I can gloss over a lot, but I am going to talk about a lot of it because I think it's pretty interesting. Logan was a 4-time American Ninja Warrior competitor. Actually got the call for season 12, but canceled due to COVID. So he's in seasons 8, 9, 10, 11. 3-time Spartan Pro Team member. Won the Obstacle Course Racing World Championship in the team division in the Elite in 2018 with Jesse Bruce and Samuel Herbert. So obviously both very good athletes, and big fan of Jesse Bruce. And I don't know Samuel too well, but he's friends with some good people. So
he's awesome. He's the best.
Yeah, and then Obstacle Course Racing Team World Championship 3rd place co-ed Elite with Amy Padgett and Matt Willis. 4th overall at NORAM in 2018-2019. Won a whole bunch of Spartan OCRs. And then here's where it gets really interesting, though. Member of the U.S. National Boomerang Team, reigning U.S. National Boomerang Champion, 3-time Team World Boomerang Champion, currently ranked 2nd in the world. And then it goes Renaissance man here, doing a little bit of everything, right? So endurance runner, competing in the Boston Marathon, former triathlon World Championship qualifier, and former All-American diver. So Logan, welcome.
Hey, Evan, thank you very much. Sorry for the rap sheet. I have a lot of hobbies. I like to chase butterflies. I chase butterflies and boomerangs, apparently.
I can see that. And we're going to be talking a lot about some crossover points between some of your other sports and obstacle course racing. But before I forget, I don't know if you know this, but I raced with Matt Willis and Amy Padgett at NORAM in 2018 and 19. And we came in 2nd. So you replaced me when you went to OCR World Championships. And you guys came in 3rd, and then I was like, damn it, I should have gone to the championships. And then I was like, no, Logan's a lot faster than me. We probably wouldn't have come in 3rd. So
I don't know. It's a short course for that run part, and I think you still would have walked away with some hardware for sure. You guys would hit the podium, regardless of whether you had you or me.
Gotcha. All right, so let's start off with Boomerang, because that is very bizarre. So how did that start, and kind of take us through that process?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about this. So this was really my first passion. It's been boomerang throwing my entire life. And the reason is my dad competed on the U.S. Boomerang team for years. So he got hooked up with the United States Boomerang Association back in the early 80s and started competing in boomerangs. And he really made it an obsession, right? He spent every waking hour thinking about boomerangs, making boomerangs, really kind of integrated into that sport. And so I grew up going to boomerang tournaments, traveling around and throwing from a very young age. And so naturally, when you start something at that age and you grow up doing it, it really becomes natural. And luckily, I've grown to become, one of the top throwers and competitors in the world. We compete at the World Championships every 2 years. There's a World Cup. So I've been lucky enough to win 3 World Cups with my team. That's everywhere from, we've gone to Italy, Brazil, Australia, Germany, Japan, France, all over the U.S., throwing and catching boomerangs. And it's a really unique sport and a really unique community of people, as you might imagine.
So what does the actual competition consist of? Is it we're talking distance? Is it more like a gymnastics routine? I don't even have a clue of where to start in my mind.
Yeah. So when most people think of boomerangs, they think of these traditional kind of two-wing wooden boomerangs that you toss out there and they kind of glide out and they come back. But in boomerang competition, we're actually competing in a series of different events that test a bunch of different skills. So like you said, there's distance. I actually hold the U.S. record in distance. I threw a boomerang 177 yards all the way out with a full return 177 yards back. So almost two football fields out.
Gosh.
And, yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then there's maximum time aloft. We're throwing boomerangs that are made to stay in the air as long as possible. Those are made out of micro balloons and epoxy covered in carbon and Kevlar fibers. So they're ultra rigid, ultra light boomerangs that are made to stay up in the air. There's fast catch, where we're throwing and catching boomerangs that are moving 80 to 90 miles per hour. And we're throwing from the center of a bullseye. So there are concentric circles on this field. And you throw from the center of the bullseye, and the boomerang has to travel 20 meters out and then come all the way around and back. And so they're moving really, really quick. In an event called Endurance, it's 5 minutes of fast catch. So for 5 minutes, you're throwing and catching as many times as possible. And then there's a really cool event that I love. It's called Trick Catch and Doubling. And that's where you actually throw two boomerangs at once. And you have to catch behind the back, under the legs, with your feet. All sorts of really cool trick catches that we do in competition too. And then there's accuracy and Australian round, which is kind of a distance and accuracy type of event. That's pretty fun to compete in too. So a whole plethora of different events, and each one has a different type of boomerang that we're using for each of those individual events. So it's something you have to see to believe. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to ask what the boomerangs were made out of, because I'm still picturing this like a boomerang shaped wooden boomerang.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So they're made out of different materials, right?
Yeah, so we make them so most of the competitors actually make their own boomerangs. So not only do you have to be an athlete, but you have to kind of be an engineer too, and be able to create the right airfoils and aerodynamics to get the boomerangs to fly and to come back the way you want them to. And so they're made out of carbon fiber, fiberglass, phenolic materials. Sometimes we do composites. Of course, all types of different woods and plastics. Sometimes we'll use like a glass-infused nylon for some of the fast catch boomerangs. So it's a whole, there's a whole slate of different materials based on what the event is, what you need the boomerang to do, and what your style is.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, if you're let's say I want to get my daughter or son involved in boomerang throwing, is there like a, the Mud Run Guide equivalent of like boomerang? Like what website should people go to, or like how do you even start this process?
Good question. So you can check out the USBA.org. That stands for United States Boomerang Association. And you can find some information about events and things like that. The tricky part is getting a boomerang that actually works. So I'm actually just revamping my website, my business. I actually make and sell boomerangs. I send boomerangs all over the world, right, to especially to young people who are trying to get into the sport. So that's, if you can find a good, comparable business that has a good working boomerang, I can send you to plenty of different references. But check out the USBA.org to start, and you'll find plenty of good boomerang vendors and places where you can get a boomerang that actually works. Because if you go out to Target or if you go out to the dollar store or something and try to buy a boomerang, the chances are it doesn't have the right aerodynamic principles to actually return. So it probably won't work that well.
Gotcha. And drop a plug for your business.
Yeah. So it'll be, so it's Broadbent Boomerangs, and again, just revamping the website, but that'll be up here in the next week or so. So you guys will have to check it out.
Yeah. And by the time this releases, it should be up already. So.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm going to go look at it.
AC's got to get a boomerang for sure. I think they should make it a Spartan event or a Conquer the Gauntlet event where you have to stop, and instead of doing a spear throw, you have to throw and catch your boomerang like 5 times. I think that would give me a little bit more of an edge in some of these events. I would like that.
Yeah, go for it, AC.
I was looking at your Instagram page, which if anybody wants to go look at videos of him throwing a boomerang, go to Logan Broadbent A&W on Instagram. But I was actually thinking, I was like, man, they need to make that an obstacle. That'd be more fun than a spear throw.
Oh, man, it would be epic. It would be epic. I'm just wondering how you avoid everybody else having to dodge boomerangs out there, because they're coming back, right? So, it might be entertaining for the spectators, too. They might enjoy watching that event. I think that'd be pretty fun. But, no, it's so cool. I've got a bunch of trick shot videos out there, too. I did a trick shot video with Dude Perfect. that's about to hit 100 million views
Jeez.
here in the next week or
Wow.
two. So yeah, go check that out. Dude Perfect, Boomerang Trick Shots. You'll get a kick out of that. You'll kind of get an idea of what I do.
And we'll share that link to the Strength and Speed Facebook page. So if you're listening to this, just head over to the page after this podcast comes out, and you'll see it up there.
Awesome.
Now, one of the things that is very impressive is you're essentially doing pro level competitions in two sports simultaneously, right? I mean, you're doing all this boomerang stuff, and then at the same time, you're competing in Spartan races. You're winning, team world championships, right? Like this is insane. So how are you balancing both? What does your training schedule look like? How often do you do boomerang, or is it just like you've done it so much that it's now like ingrained and it's just more of like a maintenance thing?
See, that's a perfect question. So it's all about being able to manage our time efficiently and effectively. And so everybody out there has a day job, right? They've got, maybe you have kids, maybe you have school, maybe you have, a million other things going on. How do we effectively train the way we need to and be able to peak, when we need to peak for those special events? And so for me, I'm usually focused on, Ninja Warrior usually happens around April or May timeframe. That's when we start. That's like the city qualifiers. And so once, the race season kind of shuts down in November, I basically switch gears and go straight back to strength, working on grip strength, upper body work, a lot of rock climbing, a lot more time actually in the gym instead of on the track. And then of course we're gearing up, beginning of February is the first U.S. national, or end of February is the first U.S. national series race for Spartan. So at the same time, I need to be doing a little bit of speed work there too. Not necessarily to peak that early, but at least to be able to perform well, at those races and to be able to represent and and start gearing up. And so what I tend to do is in the morning, I may go out for, a tempo run. During lunchtime, I may get a quick HIIT workout in, just do some core work. And then in the evening, I'll spend more time doing strength, rock climbing, maybe obstacle specific training. There's a lot of obstacle gyms that have popped up here in Northeast Ohio. I'm actually in Cleveland. And so I'll pop out to one of those, and work on some more strength stuff. But then once Ninja Warrior is over, I pretty much cut back on all climbing, all strength related stuff, because that by that point, all the obstacles that we're facing in these OCR races, we have enough strength, right, to get through those rigs and other things because of what we've done for Ninja Warrior. So then I really focus on pounding the hills, hitting the track a couple times a week, and getting some of those longer distance runs in so that I can peak for the late season.
Interesting. Yeah, I really like that strategy, and it seems to logically make sense, the periodized approach to training and, prioritizing what what you have coming up in the near future. It makes sense.
Now with boomerangs, every 2 years there's world championships. So I practice a lot harder the years when I know World Cup is coming and I need to represent Team USA. But the thing about boomerangs is it's similar to being a baseball pitcher, where you can't throw in practice every single day. Otherwise, you'll blow out your shoulder, you'll blow out your elbow, you'll do something like that. So the cross training that I'm doing for obstacle proficiency for Ninja Warrior are really keeping me strong, right, for boomerang throwing. And then I can only, and then I can get out and throw 2 to 3 days a week and still be able to keep up, my performance and my ability to remain hopefully top, one of the top throwers in the world.
Awesome. Good answer there. Now, what lessons, we like to pull lessons from other sports. So, what lessons can we take from boomerang throwing and apply them to obstacle course racing, or maybe something that you've personally experienced that you can have as crossover point?
Yeah. The one thing about boomerang throwing that, very similar to diving in this regard, is that it is so mental, right? You have one chance, you have one shot to perform and to execute at your absolute best performance. So just like when you're coming up to an obstacle, it's pretty much one and done. In Spartan races, you got a penalty by having to do burpees. In a lot of the other races, it's pass fail, right? So if you can't get through the obstacle and you get taxed, right, they're going to take away that band. And boomerangs is very similar. You have one shot. Yeah, I could kind of think of the Eminem song. You have one shot, one opportunity, right, to seize everything
Right.
you ever wanted. But really, it's right now you need to execute, and the same with diving. And so I think about that, when it comes to OCR and what I'm doing, and that, like, when you can tap into that kind of killer instinct when you're racing, it really, it pays dividends, and you're not going to fail an obstacle if you've trained doing that over and over and over again. And so I think that, and of course, adaptability is the other piece of it. In boomerangs, we're out there against Mother Nature. So when it gets really windy, even if it rains, like, we're still competing, and we have to make do with what we have. So you need to be able to react, you need to be able to adapt, and you need to be ready for anything, which means you also need to be practicing in those really tough conditions, in those really tough days when you'd rather not be out throwing boomerangs, or maybe for the folks listening here, maybe you'd rather not be out putting in the miles or working on obstacles outside because it's pouring down rain or it's freezing cold. Those are the best days to be out there doing your training so that you can be adaptable when it comes to race day.
Gotcha. Very good answer there. Yeah. I love all that stuff. AC, do you have something?
No, I think that's a great carryover is you got to get out there and do it no matter what the weather is, especially this time of the year when most of the country's cold and has bad weather. So yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, I'm stuck here in Cleveland, and in Cleveland, we're right up, tucked up on the Lake Erie. So we get a lot of lake effect snow, kind of similar to Buffalo, not quite as much as Buffalo, but still, we get hit pretty hard with some cold, wet, and snowy weather. And there's really no excuse, right? I don't take a day off if it gets icy, if it gets slippery. Oftentimes that's what we can face in Tahoe. That's what we can face at, the Ultra World Championships, right? And so the more you put steel in the fire, the stronger it gets. And the more that you're out there working in those really tough conditions, the stronger you'll get, both mentally and physically.
Any final thoughts on Boomerang? Like, what's something that someone should know about it that maybe has never seen it or experienced it?
Yeah, what's awesome about this sport is obviously it's not the biggest sport in the world, certainly not in the U.S. We have baseball, basketball, football, OCR. We've got a bunch of other sports, so it's hard to really become a major sport here in the U.S., but it has quickly been growing, and it's a lot bigger in other countries. In Indonesia, it's very large. In Brazil, Japan, Australia. But what you'll find is that it's similar to OCR in that, if you're a boomerang thrower and you meet a boomerang thrower in Europe or in Australia or in Japan, you automatically have something in common. You may be completely on different ends of the spectrum when it comes to your culture and your traditions and everything else. But when you share that one passion in common, you become family. And that's what I love about the sport of OCR. It's what I love about the sport of boomerangs is that anytime you go to these events, everybody's having that shared experience and they have that shared passion, and it's something you can really rally around. It makes you realize how much you have in common, how much more you have in common with other people than the differences that you may have.
Yeah, awesome. That is a good one. That's what I love about the sport is that everybody's, no matter what your differences are outside of the sport, when everybody gets on the trail, everybody's the same.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fair game. And, I can go anywhere in the world and I'll have a free place to stay in the boomerang community because boomerang throwers are that welcoming. If I wanted to go take a look at, if I wanted to go to Hungary or Budapest or something and hang out with boomerang throwers, I'll have a chance to do that, which is pretty cool. It definitely saves you some time and effort when you're, and money when you're traveling.
Yeah. So this question may go nowhere, but I'm kind of curious, so you've been involved in boomerang for obviously a long time at this point. So you've seen, some of the things within on the business side and I'd say the popularity side change and fluctuate. Are there any things, based off of your experience in boomerang and then your experience in OCR, for the future of OCR, is there any either lessons you can pull over or just in your personal opinion, direction you would like to see the sport of OCR go in the future?
Yeah, you know what? What we found in boomerangs is that the true growth of the sport and the people that are going to be part of the sport for a long-term period of time really comes from the grassroots efforts. So it's not necessarily these big companies and corporations that are going to get anybody and everybody out there. It's you as an athlete, right? Going into your community, encouraging other people to challenge themselves and to, try something difficult and to train together. I know that's been hard in 2020 given COVID and social distancing and everything. But those grassroots efforts, if we want the sport to thrive and to grow, it's everybody's responsibility to get somebody else out to a race and to convince them that it is possible. Same thing with boomerangs, right? Some people think that boomerangs don't work or they can't throw and catch a boomerang. But once you teach them, right, once they can attend one competition or just like, an OCR attending one race, you kind of catch the bug, right? You get hooked and, and I think that's what's going to result in growth for the sport and, long-term, longevity of the sport and hopefully, to make it an Olympic sport at one point.
I was going to ask, is that a main goal for Boomerang to get in the Olympics? It seems like that would be pretty prime opportunity for them.
Yeah, definitely. No, it was an exhibition sport in Australia and Sydney when they had the Olympics down there. But the one thing about boomerangs is and for the Olympics in general, is they like to have standardized equipment. So they want everybody throwing the same exact tool or same boomerang in this case. But as boomerang competitors, we make our own boomerangs. So it's really hard to standardize the sport. But I think if we're willing to do that, we certainly have enough teams and enough countries that participate that it could become an Olympic sport. But again, the IOC, they want to limit the number of sports that are in the Olympics, so one might have to drop off in order for boomerangs to be introduced. So we'll see if that happens. I wouldn't mind if OCR became, of course, an Olympic sport as well. I think a lot of your friends of the pod would want to see that happen.
Yeah, and I think they could, for boomerang, for OCR, we've seen the model work with triathlon in some aspects, right? Like Olympic distance triathlon is a specific distance, it's a specific standardized distance, but there's Ironman's not in the Olympics, half Iron's not in the Olympics, sprint's not in the Olympics. I don't think. So you can still have both aspects of the sport. Like there can be a boomerang Olympic boomerang, and then like still have the variants in boomerang, and then same thing with OCR, right? Like we can have a OCR version that is very standardized, like run on a track, like steeplechase with obstacles, and then we can still have our crazy mountains and 24 hour and 12 hours and insane obstacles and mud and blah blah blah. So I think there's room for both.
No, I love the nature of our sport the way it is, in that, every weekend you can be in the mountains, you can be in the mud, you can be on a really flat, sandy course, you can see the whole gamut. But of course, in the Olympics, maybe they'd want to standardize the obstacles, right? And, in the courses and everything else. So they would definitely switch it up quite a bit, but I love the nature of the sport as it is because, again, adaptability, tricking your body, confusing your body, you have to be ready for anything.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, let's jump into some of your other sports, right? Because you've done a lot. So let's switch over to diving for a minute. So tell us a little about your All-American diving. Time.
So I used to be a diver, and I love the sport. At the time I was still running, cross country. I was doing track. That sort of thing. But the thing that diving gave me was really, again, working on kind of gearing yourself mentally for executing competition. And so diving is a type of sport where you're rewarded for taking more risks. So, if you're not afraid of hitting the board or getting too close to the board or maybe smacking, the water, as many of us have done, just doing a flip or something off the board, then you're able to push the envelope and do more difficult dives. And, likewise in OCR, if you're willing to take more risks and, maybe flip over the cargo net or something to save a few seconds, you are rewarded for that type of action. So, I think diving has really helped translate to better performance in OCR.
Yeah, and especially with ninja, learning all the new ninja skills. I mean, you really gotta, especially like wing nuts and a lot of the laches and even the salmon ladder for people who are new to it. It takes a lot of confidence. Like you have to commit to those moves. If you're not If you don't go all in,
Yeah.
it becomes exponentially harder because you don't have the momentum or you don't have the, yeah.
Yeah, and you're probably going to take a couple knocks, right? So anybody who's done a salmon ladder, like for the first time, it's a lot of technique. A lot of the obstacles that we're doing in OCR, you have to practice technique over and over in order to get through them efficiently and quickly. Otherwise, you're just muscling your way through, which may be slower, maybe more taxing. Maybe you may pay for it during the run. But if you can find a ninja gym in your area and go there one day a week or something and work on tricking your body, confusing your body, working on different techniques, I think you'll be surprised at how much more efficient that makes you as an OCR athlete. That's definitely paid off for me.
Gotcha. And then did you transition out of diving just because you
I pretty much aged out. Yeah, there wasn't too much to do, after high school and college. So so I continued to run and then started doing the ninja stuff.
And then where did triathlon squeeze into all this?
Yeah. So I started doing triathlons after high school, and triathlons are great. I love kind of the three sport mentality because it does force you to be an overall athlete. Well, all of them are endurance events, right? So they're different from OCR in that there isn't a lot of strength involved, but you do have to be adaptable. You have to be able to transition from one thing to the next, and it requires you to train a lot. And so the reason I've kind of stepped away from triathlon and focused more on OCR is because OCR is more translatable to the other types of training that I was doing for either boomerang throwing and especially for Ninja Warrior. So I had something kind of had to give, right? I couldn't be a great swimmer, biker, and runner, and then also do, OCR and Ninja Warrior. Instead, I decided, I love OCR. I love what we're doing here. I'm going to focus more on this. And then again, all your money is being dumped into triathlons with the equipment, right?
Oh my goodness.
The bike, the cost of the wetsuits, the cost of, shipping your bike across the country, the travel and everything else. At least with OCR, you may be paying for a little bit of travel, but once you get there, all you need are some trail shoes and some shorts, and you're good to go. So it is much less expensive to do this type of sport.
So the last time I did a full iron was Ironman Louisville. I think it was 2013. And they had in the welcome book, they had the percentage of people that were doctors or lawyers, and it was something like 70%. It was so absurd, like a percentage of the field. I was like, what? Yeah, because it's just it gets so expensive, and I mean you can spend $5,000 on a bike, and that's like cool, great intro bike, and you're like, geez,
right.
$5,000.
I'm not a big fan of sports where you can buy speed, and I think, as expensive and as high tech as these bikes are getting, if you spend $10,000-$15,000 on a bike, you're going to have an advantage over the guy with even a really good bike that's, a couple grand. And, I don't really like that aspect of it. I think, but OCR, everybody's on an even playing field, right? So all the shoes are kind of around the same price, and you can get your nutrition, you can get your shorts, whatever it is, and and it's just you against the course, or you against yourself.
Yeah, definitely. What distance did you compete in for triathlon?
Olympic. Yeah, I was doing all Olympic distance at the time. Yeah, and I never got to do. I never did a full Ironman, and it's really just because I never committed the time, right, to that distance training between boomerang throwing, my job, and everything else. I want to focus on being the best at something, and so if I were to commit to the full Ironman, I really would want to win, or at least be in the top, the top percent. So that's something that's kind of still on my bucket list. Maybe when I slow down a little bit, I'll go. You and I will have to sign up for the same one and go help each other out a little bit. You can drag me through the swim, and
I'm pretty slow. I ran when I did done 2 iron distance triathlons, and they were both for completion. I was not really going for a good time there. And although to be fair, my first iron distance triathlon was like a year after I did my first marathon, so it was pretty early in my endurance career. That was 2004. Wow. Yeah. So.
And there's a big difference between just doing a marathon and doing a full Ironman, like being able to do that, like hats off to you for being able to pull that off. That's impressive. That's really impressive.
I think that says more about my grit than anything else. I mean, I did not. So I remember. So I started training for it January, and the iron distance triathlon was in August, and so I'm on winter break for college, so I don't have classes. We're just like kind of hanging out at my it's not my dorm. We were in a house at that point, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna follow this triathlon training plan to the T, and all I did was work out for like a week, like swim, bike, run, and people were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just so tired." Like I'd go to the gym and I'd come home and I'd just go back to sleep. If I did it now, I'd be better at it. But it was just at that point in my life, it was so much volume.
Right.
It was crushing me, just crushing me.
You just went from like 0 to 100 in like 0 time. So that's a recipe for a lot of pain and a lot of really tired days. I'm sure you race tired too.
I mean,
never.
Yeah. But I will say, like, so the one iron I did was it was called the Vine Man, which I think is now bought by actual Ironman, like the actual company. And the other one I did was Ironman Louisville, and the Ironman branded one was it was twice the price of the non-Ironman branded one.
Right.
But it was really nice. I mean, I got like a backpack and a license plate cover, and like there was a lot more spectators. There was like the medals were nicer. Everything was top notch. I mean, you're paying for it, right? So
of course, right.
The treatment I received reflected the price, but I will say it was. If you've done a full iron distance triathlon, doing an Ironman branded one was also
worth the premium.
It was. I will say it was. Especially
it's all about the swag. It's all about the swag.
Yeah. And I was like, "Ooh, a backpack! It's free!" And it's like, well, it wasn't free. I paid $250 for this, $30 backpack.
Somehow it makes it all worth it, though. It makes it all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, so what do you have coming up? I know 2020 was kind of weird. What's on the plan for 2021? And it's looking like, with the vaccine spreading, it looks like things are, in general, getting back to normal, especially for like the second half of the year.
Yeah, that's a great question because I've been looking forward, obviously, to 2021. I want to make sure first and foremost that everybody's safe, can travel safely, can race safely. I'm really looking forward to the Spartan schedule this year. It's recently released. They've got a lot on the calendar, and I obviously want to do the U.S. National Series, which would start February 28th in Jacksonville. That's a short, fast, rapid race. For anybody who's ran it, they know it's all about speed and obstacle efficiency. So that should be a good one. And then I may even think about a lot of the longer distance stuff. It tends to be the longer the race, the better that I tend to do and finish. And I think it's because I am more of a long distance kind of ultra type athlete. And so, I kind of got the itch for that when I did the ultra virus race this year. And, I finished third at the first one. That was, I put 75 miles in and of course had to submit my data and all that. But I'm starting to think that ultras would be really nice. And then also, despite living in Cleveland, I really love elevation. So I love running the mountains. I tend to do really well on very hilly, mountainy races. And so I may look at doing the mountain series this year for Spartan and, see if I can end up in one of the top spots.
Gotcha. Have they put the 24-hour Killington race back in the schedule, or is that still possibly happening or not happening?
I think that one's still up in the air. I think it's still up in the air. So, if they brought that back, that might be something, I would consider jumping in on, because it's really a place in OCR where I haven't really tested myself out. But the more I do longer distance stuff, the more I think that might be right in my wheelhouse.
Gotcha.
Have you ever done like a 100-miler or 100K? Anything to that distance?
Yeah. I've done, I've done 50-milers. I've done 50Ks. Kind of hovering around that area. Really, the 75-miler was, the longest, ultra that I've done up until this point. But I felt good, felt strong. Ran kind of on a hard, service. So I'm thinking, if I ran on something softer, some trails, and did 100 miles, those might be a good place for me to be. So we'll see. Maybe this year, I'll look at doing a couple. There's one here in Northeast Ohio called the Burning River 100. I ran it as a relay with a group this past year, and actually ran a couple legs of it, and then I paced my buddy through the final 50 miles on the back half. So I think I might have to look at doing that, and then of course OCRs that tend to be longer, 24-hour races. I think we can do that this year.
Awesome. Sounds like an exciting schedule. Good plan.
Oh, so you're saying you haven't done a Conquer the Gauntlet yet?
No, I haven't done a Conquer the Gauntlet yet. Although my friend Amy Patrick, good friend of mine, who actually lives not too far from me here in Cleveland, she has been talking to me about that and says that's a race that I have to do.
Yes, they're only doing one race this year. It's going to be south of Tulsa. It's on Labor Day weekend, so it'll probably be nice and warm that weekend. And it's an all weekend event. They're having a dinner on Friday, like a barbecue, and then race day. So they'll have their elite heat, open heat. I'm assuming they'll have a continuum for, multi-lap, which is as many laps as you can do in 4 miles in about 5 hours. So if you want ultra distance, that'd be the race to do. And then on Sunday, they're going to be doing a team event, teams of 4.
Perfect. So it's back-to-back races. So it's a Saturday, Sunday event?
Yep.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
A whole weekend. So you make a whole come down to Tulsa and make an entire weekend out of it. They're also bringing back some of the obstacles. They've rolled some of the obstacles off from that were in previous years.
Yeah.
Well, they're bringing a bunch of the old ones back. So you basically get to experience 10 years of Conquer the Gauntlet all in one weekend.
Man, that sounds sweet. I've heard the obstacles are really good, and and actually that's a weekend. Looking at my schedule, that there are no other races happening that weekend, so I'm totally down. I gotta take a road trip with my buddy Amy and come down. I'm sure Matt Willis will be there too. My former teammate at the OCR Worlds, in 2019 in London. So I'd love to see him if he's going to be down there. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome time.
How did you end up crossing paths with Amy originally?
It's funny because I had just qualified for my first year of American Ninja Warrior, and I was at the rock climbing gym here in Cleveland called Cleveland Rock Gym, and Amy was there, and some other friends who do OCR right with her. And not only did we talk about Ninja Warrior and we're like climbing together, right? We would take turns belaying and stuff. But she got me into OCR. So it was Amy Patrick and a bunch of, kind of Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, racers who were like, oh yeah, you like to run and you like doing Ninja Warrior? You should probably try, OCR. I think you get a kick out of it. And so if it weren't for them, if I hadn't ran into Amy and some of the others, I may not be involved in the sport, but I'm really lucky I ran into them at the right time. And Amy's been a great friend and a great advocate, ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. Big fan of Amy. We all love her. She's absolutely great.
Yeah, and she's an awesome ninja. She's been on the show like 6 years or something crazy. She's one of the regulars for sure. So
yeah,
and she's a veterinarian. So I don't know. She has a million hobbies. It's insane.
And a children's author.
Yeah, and a children's author and an artist, and I don't know what she doesn't do. I mean, she's probably an opera singer too, but we wouldn't know.
You can pick up if anyone wants to pick up one of our children's books. They're available at the CTG Pro Team website. You can head over to our online store there, and Amy will sign a copy for you and mail it out to you. So.
Oh, see, now that's a nice plug. She'll appreciate that one for
sure. Good role model too. My daughter is 5. She's like, Dad, I don't want to be only a racer. I don't want to be a racer when I grow up. I want to be a veterinarian. And I was like, oh, cool. She's like, maybe I'll do some racing too. I was like, oh, like Amy, and she like Amy Patrick. And she's like, oh yeah, like him. I can be a vet and a racer. I was like, So
she can do it all. She can do it all. I'm telling you.
Good role model there.
it's not a bad role model to have. It's like Oprah or Amy Patrick. Those two are pretty strong role models.
All right, let's start wrapping things up. Because I'm running out of questions because we blew through a lot of them, and I have to. Before we get to that, though, I need to apologize to Logan because I didn't tell him it was audio only, and he put on his nice Spartan Pro Team jersey. So
Man,
everyone listening is missing out on this stellar view of his.
I got all dressed up for you. I thought about throwing on the tux, but decided, I'd keep it classy and stick with the pro jersey. But man, I know we'll have to do it next time.
Next time we'll do video. Yeah,
we'll do a Facebook Live or something. Sure.
Since I got you on, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, we can cut it out if we need to. Has there been any talk on the 2021 pro team? I haven't really heard much just on the social media channels.
Good question. It's been pretty quiet. Lately. But I'm sure something's going to happen, right? I'm sure they'll be making some announcements soon. They may still be kind of shuffling the deck and deciding, who's going to be part of it. Obviously they did Spartan Games right earlier in the summer, which was pretty cool to watch. And I was on the short list for that, but they brought in a lot of athletes from other sports and stuff. And so that was pretty cool. Pretty cool that they did that and started to get interest from other sports. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Either way, I'll still plan to be in Jacksonville and still plan to do the U.S. National Series and all that fun stuff. I think, if you're racing to be on a pro team, or if you're racing to win hardware or something like that, you're really doing it for the wrong reasons. You got to do it because you love to do it, because you're passionate about it, and you love the people in the community like we talked about. And, and that's why I'm here. So I love to compete. I love to push myself and push my envelope. And, so whatever gives me the opportunity to do that, I'll be there.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, so we're going to start wrapping things up because it's getting close to my bedtime, and I have another episode of The Mandalorian to watch. Someone already spoiled the final episode for me on Facebook.
So I'm just glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't ask to record this on the night of The Bachelor or something. I declined, but no, I'm glad this worked out perfect.
So we'll do what we usually do when we have a couple people on the podcast. So. Logan, tell us something people would be surprised to know about you.
Oh boy. All right. I knew you would ask me this, and it's funny because usually my go-to is like I compete on the U.S. Boomerang team because Boomerangs is so weird and unique and kind of out there. But since we already talked about that, I got to come up with something different. Actually, last year I was the stunt double for Tom Holland. Who plays Spider-Man.
Get out!
Yeah. I was a stunt double for a movie called Cherry that they recorded here in Cleveland. That they filmed here in Cleveland. So if you guys, that'll be coming out here pretty soon. So look for some. If you see any stunts being done, like I get slammed on the floor and choked out and stuff like that, and I drive a car around a little bit. So that'll be me. But it'll look like Tom Holland.
They need to bring you on as the stunt double for Spider-Man. I mean, I'm sure that we can somehow work the boomerang thing in there. And then the Ninja Warrior thing is like, that's right in Spider-Man's alley, so.
Evan, I'm telling you, man, I would love that. And they don't even have to pay me. I'll just do it, to be Spider-Man would be pretty awesome. I think they were just looking for somebody who looked like Tom Holland. And I was the closest they could find in Cleveland. So I'm happy with that. That was great. It was a cool opportunity, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, when Spider-Man comes around, I'm going to be I'm going to be applying for that one too, for sure.
Nice. All right, AC, what do you got?
Well, it's pretty obvious by my accent that I probably listen to country music. What a lot of people don't know about me is that actually what I listen to the most is trance, like drums and bass, EDM, electronic music.
Oh, weird. That does not seem like you.
And that's exactly. That's actually what I listen to when I run is artists like Marcus Schultz, Above and Beyond. I can go on with the whole list of names. But, and actually there's actually a two-part to this one. I'm also trying to teach myself how to like do the Melbourne shuffle, running man shuffle, cut shapes, which are, different types of dances, that are applicable to EDM, because it's a good cardio and it's a good warm up to, for foot mobility. So if y'all ever see me at a race and I'm, cutting a rug out there on the grass, I'm just warming up. That's all.
Man, AC, I cannot wait to see you at a race, like pre-race with the headphones on, doing a shuffle out there at the starting line. That's going to be epic. Oh my gosh. I can't wait.
Some country boots, a big cowboy hat, and some Beats by Dre, just jamming out there.
Right. Hey man, I heard EDM is a new disco, so I'm down with that. That sounds awesome.
Gotcha. So I'll connect back to Logan's, but one I think I know I used this one, but it was years ago when we first started doing this. I'm going to use it again. So I was a extra on Upright Citizens Brigade. It was a show on Comedy Central with Amy Poehler, and I'm in the final episode of season 2 where they talk about Super Cool, which is it's sugar is what it is. But it's basically like all these kids are addicted to sugar, and they treat it like it's cocaine, basically. And so like they send a bunch of kids to Scared Straight. So there's several clips of me in the Scared Straight scene where they eventually put a foot into someone's ass, literally. Like it's part of it. It's part of the running joke. But it was cool. We got to hang out with the cast, and Amy Poehler was like super chill. This was like way before she was famous, right? This is probably 1999 or something. So yeah, if anyone wants to dig up that clip, I'll share it to Strength and Speed. I have the DVD that I own, but it's my acting one claim to fame.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to see this link.
Yeah, let me see if I'll check see if I can find it on YouTube or something. But yeah, they gave me a decent amount of screen time, and they even at one point they like they asked people to hold up using their fingers how big their bee holes are. And they pan down my arm, so like you get to see my hands up in the air to show the size of my butthole. So.
Oh my god, I gotta that sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, I dig that one up.
All right, so we're gonna get going. Before we go, final shout outs you want to give, friends, family, sponsors, etc. Anything else we missed? Logan first.
Yeah, you know what? I love first of all, just the entire OCR community, and just how awesome everybody's been, how welcoming everyone has been to everybody, right, in sports. So get people out there, challenge yourselves, and for me, I'm lucky enough to have sponsorship with Salming North America. So I race in the Salming OT comps, and train in the trail shoes, and honestly, just amazing products. Shoes I've been running in well before. I was sponsored by them. It's just a product that I really love. So they've been great. And go throw a boomerang. I always encourage people to throw boomerangs. So if you have a chance, get out there for sure.
Awesome. AC, what do you got?
Shout out to anybody coming to Conquer the Gauntlet. Just another plug for that one. Coming up on Labor Day 2021. That race is probably 100% going to happen. So don't worry about it getting canceled. Also, I've been on my feet on concrete for like 12 hours today. So shout out to UFOs because I'm wearing these right now and they feel awesome on my feet.
Good stuff.
Nice.
All right. If anyone wants any Bleg mitts, we have small, medium, large, and extreme over at the teamstrengthspeed.com website. We are for lights. I think we're down to just small. We have like 3 small and then medium left. We're out of large lights. Not planning on reordering more until springtime of 2021. Other than that, my books are available on the teamstrengthspeed.com website. And I mentioned this on the last podcast, but I just updated the new Strength and Speed Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing. So it was my best-selling book, the first one I released, the one that has like the 12 training plans and all the obstacle tips and everything from like 5K Spartan sprint to 24-hour World's Toughest Mudder type training, kind of all in one book. Just re-released it, digital format only. It's got new pictures by Stokeshed, so Bobby and Victoria Ross, that are awesome in there. And because it's digital, they're full color. They're not black and white this time. Made a couple of minor modifications to some of the training plans, updated a lot of the obstacle techniques tips based off of personal experience, and then updated the athlete interviews in the back. So now has Michelle Warnke. It's got Ashley Samples in there. It's got Jay Flores. Still has Hobie Call back there. Still has Lindsay Webster. One of the coolest parts about the Lindsay Webster interview is it was done back in 2015. So she was just gotten on the Battlefrog Pro team at that point, but it was before she'd won like multiple world championships. So you can kind of see how she trained and performed kind of before she really hit it big. So it kind of shows you that what she was doing back then was working because, based off her results for the last, 5 years, 6 years. And like I mentioned on the last episode, this podcast is going to be released on January 18th. So tomorrow, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, is January 19th. January 19th and January 19th only, the book in digital format will be like $3 on Amazon, right? And then it jumps back up to $10 because I wanted people to have the information without having to rebuy the entire book. So you don't have to, but if you want an updated version of the book, $3 is never going to be that low again. And it's only going to be for this one day, January 19th. And if you're listening to this after January 19th, you missed it. So I'm sorry, but yeah, head over and pick that up. It's on Amazon. You can find the link over at the teamstrengthspeed.com website. And other than that about wraps it up. So again, Logan, thanks for coming on. AC, thanks for co-hosting.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll have to catch up with you again at some point later, Logan. You got a lot of interesting stuff with your background and experiences there. So
yeah, no, well, happy to join you guys anytime. It's been my pleasure, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys and all the listeners out on the course this year.
All right.
Yes.
We'll catch you later.
For sure.
Have a good one.